Hey everybody, it's time for another episode of The Cultural Hall, and this is going to be a replay episode. Now, just last week, there was a post on social media from Abigail. You're thinking, Abigail who? Abigail Love, whose mom is Mia. Mia Love, the former Utah Congresswoman, the first black female Republican elected to Congress, talked about her mom's diagnosis and about her prognosis. Now, she was diagnosed with glioblastoma brain cancer and announced that on CNN last May. And, well, she's been in a clinical immunotherapy trial that was responding really well, but now her prognosis has taken a different turn. Her daughter said, hey, many of you are aware that mom has been fighting brain cancer, and sadly her cancer is no longer responding to treatment, and the cancer is progressing. So they said, quote, "We have shifted our focus from treatment to enjoying our remaining time with her. I am building an archive of special memories with Mia. Please send your pictures, videos, and memories to me at MiaLoveMemories@gmail.com. And so if you enjoy this episode, you can tell them why, MiaLoveMemories@gmail.com, and it'll be in the show notes. Or you can just enjoy this episode. You can always send it, contact@theculturalhall.com, and we'll forward it along if you'd like us to do it that way. But we thought it appropriate to be able to share this episode. This originally aired November 11th, 2011. It was episode 15 of The Cultural Hall. We skipped the first block because this is back when we used to do news and then had the guest in the second and third block. So you're going to pick it up right at the beginning of the second block. The other voice that you're hearing is Lauren Matthias. She was the original co-host of The Cultural Hall, gone on to do some amazing things. But here you go, a replay episode with Mia Love of The Cultural Hall. You're listening to The Cultural Hall podcast with your hosts, Richie T. Stedman and Lauren Johnson. It's a podcast about Mormon stuff. Nephi! Ella! Samuel! Give us land if they live righteously! It's time for another episode of The Cultural Hall, this being episode 15. Our guest today will be Mia Love, and we'll get into that in the second and third blocks. Very excited. This is the second block of The Cultural Hall, and excited to have here with us Mia Love. Now, maybe you haven't heard the name before. Maybe you go, Mia Love, I don't know who that person is. Allow me to tell you.
Okay, you go for it.
Me and my friend, Brother Pedia, first name Wiki, would tell you about Mia Love that she is the first woman of African descent to serve as a city mayor in Utah. She began her term as mayor of Saratoga Springs, my neighboring city to the south, in January of 2010. She was born in New York City and then raised there in New York and in Connecticut. Mia's parents were immigrants from Haiti. She had older siblings who were born in that country. She graduated from the University of Hartford and afterwards worked as an airline flight attendant. Around this time, she joined the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. She was... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead. I didn't know you were going to read that. Continue.
Mia was married in 97, then moved to Saratoga Springs. In 2003, she was elected to the Saratoga Springs City Council, and in 2009, elected mayor of that city. Welcome to the Cultural Hall, Mia Love.
And might I add, very beautiful and great taste in jewelry.
Oh,
I'm looking at
you.
that necklace going.
It's a basic. Pearls, you just got to have pearls, all
beautiful.
sorts of sizes.
Lauren's just oogling the pearl necklace. Now, Mia and I, we met a while back, so I know a little bit more about her. She came on through my day job. That's how we first met. And at that point, I said, hey, you know what? Got this podcast that's coming up. Still, it was a vision at that point. Would you be willing to come on? And so thank you so much for being...
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So let's start beginning with Mia Love. So you were born in New York?
I was born in New York, yes.
Where in New York? I was born in New York,
I was born in Brooklyn, New York. My parents came over legally from Haiti. You have to say that one.
Yeah.
You have to say that because it's important. They came over, and I was born in December 6th of 1975. They became U.S. citizens at that point, and my brother and my sister became U.S. citizens, but I was the only one in my family that was born in the United States.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so,
Wow.
so when you say they became at the same time, they like when you were born, it was like, now she's born, let's go become citizens? Or does it become that they're citizens once you're born here?
You know what? They always wanted to become citizens, so they got a visa to come over. And at that time in the country, if you had a child that was born in the United States, then you can apply to become a citizen of the United States. I was born December 6, 1975. In January 1st, 1976, that law no longer applied.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Cutting it close, Love family.
Yeah. Bordeaux family.
Bordeaux
actually,
family.
yes.
Sorry about that.
And your
Love isn't a very Haitian name.
there is your name, Mia's a nickname, right? Is that?
Yes, my full name is Ludmya, but I go by Mia.
Ludmya.
There are way too many people that botch that up. So Mia, it's been Mia for a long time, and that's the way it's
Okay, I was just wondering how to pronounce it.
No, it's
Ludmya.
fine.
Does it mean anything?
No, it doesn't really mean anything. I actually found out when I was 10 years old that it was the name, Ludmya was the name of a father's ex-girlfriend.
Oh, really?
Yes.
One of those.
I never really forgot her, and so, oh no.
It was too late for my mother to change it.
Oh, that's
Did-
awesome.
But,
so-
I love my name. I think it's great.
It's a beautiful name.
So she didn't know that either? Your
She
mom
didn't
know?
know. No, it came up in conversation one day, and I just sat at the kitchen table thinking awkward.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Are your parents still in New York City, or where are they
They're
now?
in Connecticut.
They're
They live in Connecticut. And yes, even after that incident, still very happily married. And
Well, that's good to know.
They were able to get over that hiccup.
ex-girlfriend name.
It's interesting. I bring this up only because I find it fascinating. The whole taking a name and then changing it, because whether or not people are have a hard time pronouncing or whatever. But President Obama, Barack Obama, in college he went by Barry, and I found that to be completely fascinating. Has nothing to
is
do with the church,
interesting.
and certainly nothing to do with the cultural hall, but all through his Harvard years, Barry Obama.
yeah.
Barry Obama. That'd be interesting to have a president named Barry. Hey,
Barry.
Barry.
I think Barry.
So born in New York. How old were you when you guys moved into Connecticut?
I was 5 years old, about 5.
And so any family job change? What brought you from New York to Connecticut?
No, my parents thought this was, New York. It's not really nice, safe place to raise children.
What, Brooklyn isn't safe, really?
They wanted to make sure by the time I went to kindergarten that I was in Connecticut. So they moved to Connecticut, and they brought my sister and my brother over from Haiti at that time. And
So they were still there.
they were in Haiti. Hmm.
How old were they?
Oh gosh, so I was 5, 9, and 7.
My goodness.
Holy cow.
So in order to come to the United States, did they need to leave your brother and sister then? And then
But they left them periodically. It wasn't for a, they left them and just to kind of stabilize things and make a life for themselves. And in Haiti, they had a lot of family and, a lot of brothers and sisters that could help so that it wouldn't change their routine until they were stable enough.
To
And then
bring
they
them
brought
over.
So they
Wow.
really did have a dream to come to America.
Oh,
because
yeah.
that was
it was a
lot of effort.
lifelong plan. It certainly was.
And why did they want to come?
Well, they wanted to be able to realize the truth of the American dream. I mean, this country is incredible. We have one of, I think, the greatest nation in the world, where you have all of these freedoms. And in Haiti, you don't have as many of those freedoms, the freedom to choose, the freedom to work, and even to fail. And so they wanted to be able to work and have their children have a great education. And, it's one of the things that people look up to when it comes to the United States.
What do your folks do?
Oh, well, my dad is supposed to be retired, but he's not retired now.
Is he one of those that has
He's
a
one
hard
of
time?
those that just cannot really lay low for a little bit. So he finished his job. When he retired from Brandman Paint. He used to work there, and now he drives bus here
Really?
and there. Yeah,
Like a
because
school
he
bus
wants,
or
yeah,
community?
because
Oh, cool.
it's really low hours, not very many hours, and low key job, and so he does that because he likes to just work
Yeah.
and make money.
Be
He just
doing
won't
something.
sit still. And my mother is a nurse. At Wilton Meadows. It's a convalescent home or nursing home in Connecticut.
So
Wilton,
Mia,
Connecticut.
you are a convert,
I am.
according to Wikipedia.
Yes.
So it says that you graduated from college, became a flight attendant, and that was around the time you converted. Tell me a little bit about that. How did this happen?
Well, I graduated and I needed a job that would be able to take me from place to place, and I didn't have to worry about paying for it.
Why did you need to go place to place?
Well, I wanted to be able to leave myself open to interviews anywhere. And
Very cool.
And so I became a flight attendant. It's a great thing to do when you're young.
Sure.
Take a weekend here or there, so it was great, good for the time. And my sister was a member of the church in college. She became a member of the church during school, and I actually went to investigate. It's a funny story how that happens.
Sure.
I went to investigate. You want me to share that story?
Sure. Please.
Okay. So my sister invites me to church, and I'm there as a spy for my parents.
Mia, we need you to go and find out what this whole Mormon
what this
thing
whole
is about.
cult is about.
Oh.
And so I went over, and you have to erase everything you know about the LDS church in terms of the lingo. You have to just erase everything you know. So I walk in, and of course it's Fast Sunday, which is a bad time to bring people
worst.
to church. I mean, I don't know why we don't learn this, but it's not a good time. By the time I was done, I call my mother. I'm just cutting the story short.
No,
here.
don't. You don't have to cut it short.
I call my mother and I said, Mom, you've got to get her out of this place. I was sitting down and this woman got up at the podium and started crying, saying she was seeing spirits and she was feeling them in her. And that's why she was crying. I don't know if she's possessed or what she's doing. But anyway, I walked into a classroom and Cindy got pulled out. Cindy, my sister, got pulled out because she got a phone call from God saying that she needed to work in a nursery with some of these kids to like nurse these kids or something like that. So she's going to be a nurse for the church because God called her and told her. And she's in a room right now with two guys that are putting their hands on her head and they're taking her apart. And that's what I got from that whole thing. And it's so funny. My mom's like, go in there. She was irate at this point. Go in there. Get her out. I said, Mom, she went in there willingly. She went in there like she wanted to go in there. And anyway, I finally got off the phone and I, knocked on the door and they were coming out and she was all in one piece. And
Their hands were off the head.
But, you just don't, when we talk about things, when we're members of the church, we talk about things and they're just, we take the words for granted. We just kind of say, yeah,
Sure.
they got a calling and they're being set apart. And I took it from phone call and being taken apart because I've never heard that,
Right.
Sure.
those phrases before. So I messed everything up that entire day. And so anyway.
Mom, the phone call later. Mom, I was a little incorrect. She's actually not torn apart.
She
went
fine.
in willingly to get torn
She's fine.
apart.
As a matter of fact, I think I might join this thing.
Yeah. So how did it go? So obviously
what
the first time
The first
didn't go that
impression
great.
wasn't great. So I went to a party with a friend of mine. This is months after. I went to a party with a friend of mine, and it's just, I came home saying, I am so sick of this crowd. It's just this party, and you go out and you do. It's just like, it's not me. It doesn't feel good. I was a member of the Catholic Church by then, at that time, and I grew up a member of the Catholic Church. And I went to church every Sunday listening to a priest speak Latin, and I didn't even understand what they were saying, but I knew when to kneel and when to stand up and when to do the cross sign and when to do all these other things, but it didn't resonate with me. So I started just going with my sister to help support her. And frankly, what really changed my mind is listening to the men talk about their wives. And that's an impression that they left on me. And I remember a man got up and he said, brothers, you have to love your wife the same way that Jesus loves the church. And I was like, that's a great gig for a woman. I'm like, I want
love
that.
Yeah.
I want a husband that loves me.
Exactly.
The way
And he calls
Jesus
me a
Christ loved the
princess.
church.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
And then I saw the way that these men would treat their wives. It's sweetheart and this and that. And, it wasn't perfect, but it was this there was a different type of respect that I wanted. And that's what resonated with me. And so I started really investigating.
Had you had
love that.
relationships up to that point in your life that weren't that way? Like, had you been in relationships with guys where you're like,
oh no,
I really think I could.
I am so standoffish. It was just, I never had time. I never really had a boyfriend for more than 2 weeks. I just didn't have time. I was so busy.
Join the
I was
club.
so busy.
Yeah.
It's
nice
just,
try, Lauren. Nice try.
I was just really busy and preoccupied with college and with what I was going to do with my life, and didn't really want to settle down
But even still, so not having that experience of a poor experience, it was such a resounding thing to be like, wow, they treat their women so fantastic. That's cool.
Yeah, they treat their
That is
women
really
so
neat.
great. And I said, if I'm going to marry someone, I want to marry someone like that.
That's really neat.
So how did that happen then?
Marrying someone?
Converting/marrying someone.
Well, I don't want to leave too many open spots. I became a member of the church. I studied and really felt like I wanted to be a member of the church. And
What made you finally decide? Or was there a moment where you said, yes, I want to get baptized? And what created that moment?
Yes, I had two things that were keeping me from being a member of the church. One, and it's coming, it's coming, polygamy. The polygamy issue, I still struggle with it.
Sure.
Two, the idea that African American or Black men couldn't hold the priesthood till 78.
Those are pretty hefty issues.
Those are pretty hefty issues to have to,
Those were issues? No.
get over. But, I started thinking to myself, everything else that I understand, I feel good about it. And, we're past 1978 and we're past some of these other things, and polygamy no longer exists in the church. And so I took a leap of faith and I became a member of the church because everything else was fine. And it's funny, the day after I became a member of the church, I moved to Houston to start the flight attendant training with Continental. And I walked into a singles ward, and there's this old man. And of course, he stood out because it's a singles ward. Old man, Black man, sitting in the back. And I went and sat next to him because, of course, I'm just curious. I sat back there and I said, so I just became a member of the church. Let me ask you, have you always been a member of the church? And he said, I don't remember how long he said, but it was a long time. And I said, how did you feel? How did that make you feel? Because I struggle. I said, I have to tell you, it's a big issue for me.
Sure.
I'm
Blacks
struggling with this is what I tell this man. And I said, this is a big issue for me. How is it that you were okay with it? How did that make you feel that you couldn't hold the priesthood? Were you worthy to hold? And he's like, well, yeah, of course I was. But he said, but that's not the question. He said, I've been there and I'm still a member of the church after going through all of that. You were born with all the rights and the privileges as everyone else. And he's like, we've paved the way. So he said, he's just like, so you can't, you don't really have the...
almost a how dare you be upset?
Not really. It was just like it's not really your issue. It's not your issue.
What are you worried about?
What are you worried about? I stayed in. I had that much faith to stay in.
I did it for you.
And so did many, many, many Black Americans. So did many Black people all over the world. They stayed and was part of the church because they believed in something. And he said, remember, it's not man's work. It's God's work. And whatever has to happen to get it there is what will happen to get it there. And so I had faith. You should have faith.
Wow.
I was just like, well, I kind of shut up then and just said,
Did you feel like you were meant to meet him and talk to him?
Everybody says I'm meant to do this. They'll stand up and say I'm meant to do that. I just think that every experience you have, you take from it what you can. And so am I meant to be here? Yeah, maybe not, but I'll take the experience that I have here and make it a positive experience. So whether you're meant to be or not meant to be, it's just what you take out of it.
Well, you're meant to be here, Mia. Let me answer that question. You are meant to be here with us doing this right now.
We received a call, actually.
Yeah, and then I tore her apart, and then no, I don't. What about the polygamy issue? Any sort of thing that helped you to get over that, or was it just like that?
I guess it's just one of those things that I still, think, ooh, thank goodness I don't have to live through that.
I have a hard time with that too. Sometimes.
It's just thank goodness I don't have to live through that because I have a hard time thinking I'd have to share my husband. And I have to tell you, my husband thinks, he's like, I don't know how those men did it because I've got a wife that
I can
bear
about two of you. Yeah,
she's about all I can handle.
Exactly.
So, and so he's just. I'm glad that we don't have to deal with that, and we, men could be committed to one wife.
Yeah,
there's something really special about that relationship.
Absolutely. So, when did you meet your husband?
I met my husband about a year after I became a flight attendant. Actually, I met him. Back up. I met him on his mission. He was on his mission when I saw him.
Naughty.
No, yeah. No.
Who's
and
that?
I remember he was actually the teacher of the young man that taught me the lessons and baptized me.
Oh, really?
Yes, he is. He was the one that taught him. So I met him there, and I remember seeing him in a singles ward, and I looked at a friend of mine, and I said, I need to set you up with him when he moves back to Utah, because I had no plans of living in Utah. And so I said, you need to meet him. He's kind of cute. And so I remember when I was a flight attendant, that same friend asked me to come and stay with her for a few months while she got things settled and made some friends. So she wasn't out here. She was from Oregon and she was LDS. And so I moved out with her. It was supposed to be for 6 months. And I set her up with Jason.
Who is your husband?
Who is my husband now. I set her up with Jason and it didn't quite work out. He and I we're best friends and it happened very quickly. It was just very clear that.
How quick?
I would say, let's see. It started in early August, and we were married in December.
Yeah.
Well done. If it's right, it's right.
Yep.
I like that.
We don't waste time.
Yeah, get it done, right?
And so 13 years later, he's a big influence on my life, and it's just I love being married to him.
And so how old were you when you were married then?
22.
22. Okay.
So coming back in the third block of the Cultural Hall, we'll talk to Mia about what's going on for her life now, how it is being a mother and being in politics. And I want to talk to you a little bit more about being a member of the church and how it is now, because we talked about the priesthood, but I still, we'll get into it here in just a minute on the third block. Third block of the Cultural Hall right now, and still joining with us, Mia Love, future president of the United States of America. Call it. Mark it on this date. I'm calling it out. No,
what?
No pressure, Mia.
I would believe it. Also, take note, you're 35, 36 years old?
I'm 35.
35, what she's accomplished.
Just barely eligible to even run for the office.
Right. And you've been a congresswoman as well as a...
No. She's been a mayor.
Council.
And then city
council.
Yep.
As well as a mayor.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to get into it. Teased it right before the break. Sloppily teased it. I want to know how you feel being a black member of the church today.
I don't know.
I mean, because here's the reason why. For me, I served my mission in Cleveland. So did Lauren. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's just Utah. Maybe that's where my feeling comes from. But I always I have this feeling of just an extra sense of pride for black people who are in the church, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's like a reverse kind of racism or something like that. But it's like I think that's so awesome. And when I go into a ward, and in my ward now there is a black gentleman, and I'm like, yeah, thank you for being here. And I just think it's so cool because here in Utah we're not very diverse. But I wonder if there's ever any sort of like, okay, Mia, I wonder if there's any sort of standoffishness of people just based on color anymore or any of that kind of stuff.
I want to know, yeah, exactly. And what would I think I know exactly what it is, though, that you say. I don't know what it is, why I have pride. I think Mia brought it up in the second block. It's the fact that many people have issues that black men couldn't hold the priesthood until 1978. And it's a struggle, as you talked about.
It's not a struggle for me now. Like I said, it was, but it was squashed very quickly, and it's just one of those things. If you think about it, black people weren't the only ones, that it wouldn't have been, they wouldn't have been the only ones. I mean, pioneers struggled being persecuted themselves.
Sure.
And so here's what it's like being a member of the church. I'm no victim. I am no victim. I've never been a victim. In other words, if somebody bumps into me in the grocery store or gives me a dirty look, I don't just assume that they're prejudiced. I assume, okay, that person's a snob or they're having a bad day. I don't single myself out. Therefore, I'm not singled out. I just, and if they do have an issue, if somebody does has an issue with that, it's not my issue.
Sure.
It's their issue. So it's not, I'm no victim. So being a member of the church, when it comes to race, I love being a member of the church. I love that our church has become so diverse. We are Christians who embrace all other Christians. Mm-hmm. I've listened to,
even if they don't do it to us.
Even if they don't do it yes, we embrace and respect all other Christians. And I love being a member of the church because even if you don't really believe in everything that's in it, which I do, it's still an amazing life. It's an amazing life. You're talking about tithing and fast offerings and giving back and service and being there for your children and being there for your husband and making sure that the family is the core value, is the core of where your base and your foundation is. I don't care what you believe in. Those are great principles.
Absolutely. So I have a question then. Mm-hmm. when you did have this issue back your first week, you're a new member and you found this man that you were able to go sit next to and say, help me out. It's almost like you're in this man's shoes now where you are. What would you say to someone like you, saying, I'm having issues and I need help? What would you say to them? What would you say to Black members and those investigating and people that just have issues now with the priesthood and Blacks not receiving it until 1978?
Okay, so I would take it back and compare it to, for instance, during the time of segregation, where people couldn't walk in or you sit in the back of the bus. So what I do now, I sit in the front of the bus anytime I want to. I sit in the back. I mean, the cool kids sit in the back of the bus. Right. I mean, so that's what you do. And what you would say to them is that they're people that have paved the way. The only thing that you need to do is make it worth it. Make all of the sacrifice worth it.
I love
That's
that.
what they need to really focus on. So all of the people that have paved the way for us to be, and I'm not just talking about myself, I'm talking about for all Americans, because I think all Americans benefit from everybody having equal opportunity. I think all Americans benefit from that. You have to make it worth it. All of those sacrifices have to be worth it.
I love that. You also said earlier on, you said that I loved the way they treated their women. Mm-hmm. There's people today that talk about how only men receive the priesthood and how they think that women are second-class citizens in the church. Maybe it's just anti-Mormon stuff out there, but what is your opinion on that now?
Oh, come on. We all know who moves a family. We all know exactly why they need the priesthood. I mean, they need the priesthood to get them where they need to be. Sorry, Richie. It is just the way it is. We are the CEO, head of the household when it comes to, my husband doesn't know anything about medical issues or school issues or education issues. He says, talk to my wife, because we're the ones that make the doctor appointments. We're the ones that are in the schools. We're the ones that are in the cities, in the community, shopping in the communities, and we're the ones that are living life. So, I'm sorry, but I think that women are very empowered enough that if we choose to, we stay home and we do these things. But if we feel a greater calling, we can be supported by our community, by our bishops, by our husbands to do more.
I agree with that.
You say a greater calling. Mm-hmm. You've got into Saratoga Springs, doing the city council. Now you're the mayor of Saratoga Springs. Is all this a greater calling? Something?
It's a calling. I don't know, greater calling or not greater calling. It's definitely something that I find fulfillment in serving. I love serving. I always tell my children that you cannot leave. The world doesn't revolve around you. You have to leave a mark. You have to learn to serve others. It's our responsibility to do that. But why, communities.
But why do it this way? I mean, because there are a lot of other ways.
Because there's a need. If there's a need and you can do something about it and change your community, change your state, change your country in a positive direction.
See, President of the United States right there. I just want to point that out.
I'm
just telling you, change your country in a positive direction. You have an obligation to do it.
What do you think empowers you specifically? Because as Lauren has pointed out, I mean, that's pretty fast track. City council, now mayor, potentially Congress. I mean, how?
I didn't grow up saying I want to be a politician. I want to do this. It's just I found an opportunity to serve and I did it. And as I find opportunities to serve and I can make a difference, then I'll do that. The opportunity to serve are the things that they fall in your lap, and it's whether you're willing to take up that burden and march on with it or wait for somebody else to do it.
Do you believe it's your uniqueness that empowers you? Because I think that's one of the things for me. I mean, first of all, that you're a woman. I mean, sorry.
Yes, I am.
But
and don't apologize. But I'm okay with that.
No. But more politicians are men, so you have that. You have that kind of uniqueness. Mm-hmm. But the fact that you're also Republican,
I am,
and Black,
yes,
and Mormon,
yes.
I mean,
it's like somebody calls it. A friend of mine calls it. She's like, he says you're a unicorn. Like a unicorn in Utah. Yeah.
That's exactly what Mitch Main said last week's.
Yeah, last week's Cultural Hall. He's the guy who was called to the bishopric, who's openly gay, called to the bishopric out in San Francisco. We had him on and visited with him. He calls himself kind of a unicorn,
He said because I was an urban legend. People didn't believe it until they met me that I was openly gay and Mormon.
Wow. Yeah.
Have you heard about that at all?
Yes, I heard about it. Yeah.
I wondered if we were.
No.
So I think for me, I mean, besides the fact that you're really intelligent and have never been anything but kind to me, and she was actually getting on my case. I saw her at a restaurant a little while ago, and I didn't go and say hi to her because I wasn't absolutely positive it was her. And she's like, "You should have come said hi. We could have made room for you at the table. Come talk to us." I feel bad. But just such an awesome uniqueness that to me, I'm just like, yeah, I can get behind that.
Well, thank you.
I don't know if that was a question at all. Just
more of a statement.
More of a statement. But yeah, thank you. I mean, like I said, I'm me. I have this family. What empowers me? You asked me what empowers me, or what really is it's my family. It's my family. It's teaching my kids the things that I would want them to learn.
And taking Richie's statement a little farther, making it a question, do you feel that being a minority in multiple ways, as Richie pointed out, also empowers you?
I don't think so. Because I do whatever I can to not single myself out. I do everything I can to not do that. In Utah especially, I have not had any issues with those things in this state. This state I was elected in a council with over 60% of the votes, and then elected again as mayor with about 60% of the votes.
So with that being said, do you feel it is in people's mind when they talk about racism or, as you said, people thinking they're a victim? Or what is it then? You just said you were elected to the city council with 60% of the votes. Obviously, that's not an issue then, racism here in Utah, yet many people will talk about it being an issue.
And again, if you're not a victim, I don't think it's an issue. If you're not a victim, because even if people treat me, I can never go and say, this didn't happen because somebody did this. You have to take personal responsibility for what goes on in your life. And
Absolutely.
If you've got goals in your life, then you have to reach them in spite of what other people think. Again, if they have issues, those are their issues. In Saratoga Springs, I made it very clear what I was going to do, what my plans were, and that, I wanted to make sure that Saratoga Springs was on firm fiscal standing, and that was going to be my goal in bringing economic development. And that was it. So as far as I'm concerned, people didn't care about that or really wanted that to happen, didn't care about, when I say that, I mean race. They didn't really care about race. And if they did, they cared more about their pockets and what was going on in their community than anything else. Either way, it didn't stop me from accomplishing the things for Saratoga Springs that I wanted to accomplish for the people there. So,
your family is your strength. How?
Well, I just, everything that we do, and I guess if it's my family, it means everybody else's family too. Again, living in Saratoga Springs, it's making sure that this community that my children are going to grow up in, and the children around all of Saratoga Springs was going to grow up in, had kept a little bit of the freedoms that we have here. Year after year, we're going up to the state legislators to fight for more local decision making, and year after year, we get more and more taken away from the local level, and it's got, those things have to stop. I'm a limited government, small government person, grassroots, local decision making person.
But yeah. I mean, going with it, though, some would say, well, your family, your strength, you're a pretty busy person. I mean, you're here with us all day. Does it ever get hard to be away from your family doing all the things that you do?
It gets hard, but it's worth it, because when we talk about these things, if we can touch somebody else's life, then the world is better for it. My children get to grow up in a world that's a little bit better. So every moment that I'm away from my children, I do for them and for my husband, and it makes this world a little bit better. They're going to have to inherit what we leave behind.
You mentioned that you feel that America is the greatest country there is.
I do.
You do. We're
do.
kind of in a time of turmoil. I would say, I hope that's an okay word to use.
You're right.
Are you optimistic about the future? I mean, what do you, as a politician?
It's not, yes, I'm optimistic, but there are certain things that have got to turn around today. We've got to start turning some things around.
What things are those?
One is the debt. Again, I talk about my children and how they are, the reason why I do a lot of things. I can't stand by as we leave our children a legacy of debt and dependency. They cannot pay for 50% of our lives and 100% of their own lives. That can't happen. It's an impossibility. So that's one thing. We talk about personal responsibility. We've got to be able to let Americans make choices for themselves and be able to realize the truth of the American dream, just like my parents did. You know, when I said the things that made this nation great was the freedoms that we have to choose, the freedoms that we have to work and to prosper, but also freedom to fail. And my parents failed a lot. But they learned from all of those failures, and it got them to where they are today and got us to where we are today.
Paved the path for you.
Yes. And then the last thing is limited government. Again, whether it's state government or federal government, I mean, the regulations it's just out of control. It's stifling our economic growth, and we've got to be able to allow people to prosper here. I don't know when it became a bad thing when people made money.
Yeah.
I don't know, Bill Gates, for instance, he equals 100,000 jobs or about that much. We want 20 of them. We don't want to take Bill Gates down. I mean, come on. This is what I'm talking about. These are the people that create jobs, and they create places for, people like my parents to work.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the future for you then? You're the mayor right now.
I'm the mayor right now, yes. We've opened up or launched an exploratory committee for the U.S. House.
Doesn't that just kind of mean, hey, I'm going to do it, but I want to make sure no one has a problem with it? That's what I always feel like. We're seeing we're weighing out what our options may in fact be. To me, it's just like, I'm going to run. Anybody excited? Anybody want to get on board on this? Yeah.
Well, things are moving in the right direction, but this is, if I can make a difference, a positive difference in our country, then it's my obligation to do that. And in Washington, you've got 435 members of the U.S. House. That's a place where, if you can't blend in, you might as well stand out and make some noise. So, if I can do that and get my voice heard by all Americans, not singling one demographic out or one race out, then that's my job to do that.
What is your calling in your ward right now?
I am the Sunday school teacher for the 15, 16-year-olds.
Ah.
How's that?
It is great. I love it. Those kids are just, they're wonderful. I'm inspired by them. And
do they think it's pretty cool you're mayor?
Yeah, I think they do. Or they've gotten over it already.
Sister
they're
mayor,
like, yeah, sister, yeah, whatever.
Like that you come in the room, everyone stands up.
Yes, no, it's so not like that. As a matter of fact, I'm always like, okay, put your cell phones away, please. Take your headphones out. We're going to hang out and talk. Stop texting. There's no one there. Your girlfriend's in church.
Yeah.
Or she should be.
Yeah, or she should be.
Yes. And it's funny. We have great conversations. I sit there and I tell the young men, I said, being a member of the church is good for you. All of you girls here, would you date somebody who was just kind of doing their own thing and didn't need, God or Jesus Christ or any principles? They're looking at me like, no. And I said, would your dad have been able to marry your mom? They're like, oh, no way. We still don't know how that happened.
Good.
So we have good, frank, open talks. We teach from the lesson and we talk about things. But what's great about that calling, my husband and I teach it together.
Oh, cool.
My husband is one of my heroes. He's so great. We teach it together and we let the kids kind of make the lesson their own. So they start talking about things that are pertinent to them and they really get involved. So it's not just a lecture and we can be friendly with them.
Do you talk about
friends.
The issues that face them today? I mean, drugs, sex. I mean, how do you deal with everything that's going on in teenagers' lives today?
Yeah, we talk about choices. We talk about last lesson, for instance, we talked about what you wanted to do in life and how it's going to affect you positively. And again, how it's going to affect other people positively. And then we talked about all of the things that would get in the way of that, meaning decisions, sexual decisions that may stop them from doing these things, decisions with substance abuse. And it kind of it paints a picture that if I really want to do this and it's going to make me happy and it's going to make other people benefit from this, I can't do some of these other things or even come close to doing some of these other things because it really stops what their goals are. And so we talked about those things and they wrote their goals down, how it affects them, how it affects other people. And I told them to put it up somewhere where they can see it every day. So, because we're really visual, this generation is becoming more and more visual. So those are the things we talk about.
What is your dream calling? If you could pick. Bishop, here we go. This is what I want to do.
Oh, gosh. dream calling. I can't tell you. I'm sorry. It sounds very vanilla, but I have found some great things in every calling I've had. I've been the activities chair, and it's been amazing. That was so much fun, being able to plan all the activities. I've really enjoyed the callings that I've been able to have with my husband. I think this so far is my favorite because
Very
I've been
cool.
able to hang out with my best friend, and
How old are your children?
I have a 4-year-old. My husband and I have a 4-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 12-year-old.
Okay. Very cool. So you're kind of preparing for them to be that age soon, 15 and 16.
Yeah. My husband is he's incredibly supportive. He jumps in and fills in the blanks, and we do that for each other. And
That's fun. What do you love most about your faith?
Here's the word. If I can sum it up in one word, it's agency. Again, they're not restrictions, they're guidelines, and the bottom line is choice, the freedom of choice. It's what makes the world go round.
Amen. Can I hear an amen?
Objection.
I sustain.
Yeah, thank you. So now what we ask people to do is we ask them to get up on the Rammy-umptum. Anything that you want, if you want people to follow you on Twitter or find you on Facebook, or if you have a book coming out, or if you can solicit people. You can solicit people.
You're going to run for president of the United States, and you want to get a committee together.
We are exploring a congressional run for 2012, and I am on Facebook, Mia Bordeaux Love on Facebook, and I have a MiaLove.net. If anybody wants to donate or volunteer to help with that exploratory committee effort, that would be great. I would love as much help and support as I can get, and I'm available and ready to answer questions and talk to people.
When do you have to declare?
You don't have to declare. Well, you have to do it in Utah right before or right after caucuses. So I will make a decision, or actually I will be making a decision soon. It'll be fairly soon.
But not today on the Cultural Hall.
Not today. No announcements today.
Worth a shot.
One day, Richie.
Yeah, one day.
One day
people
we'll
will be like,
I will
yes,
definitely. You will be in my top list of people to call because you've been so great to me. So
thank you very much.
Thank you for being here.
You guys are great.
Mia Bordeaux Love. Check it out on Facebook. Do you have a Twitter? You didn't mention.
I do. Mia B Love Twitter.
At Mia B
so
Love.
going to follow her.
Yeah. And she means literally stalk you. She doesn't mean Twitter.
A little bit of both. Well, I mean both. I mean Twitter and
I
real
tweeted that I was here today, so that was fun.
Okay, get the security ready then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's for when she walks out. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
And the best of luck to you in the presidential race, but first probably the congressional race, and even further just the rest of this day.
Thank you.
We hope that this podcast or this episode of the Cultural Hall nourished and strengthened your body,
and that you'll take the things you learned, like agency, into your daily lives.
and that as you travel home, that you will travel home in safety, and that no harm or accident will come upon you.
Yes, absolutely, and we'll be saving a seat for you
On the back row of the Cultural Hall.
Save me a seat, it's sure to be neat.